At the very heart of all politics, there's this one fundamental argument. It's a debate that's been raging for centuries, and it continues to shape our laws, our societies, and, well, our everyday lives. So let's dive into this never-ending conversation. And it really all boils down to this single question. Who should have more power, you or the state? Should you be as free as possible from any kind of interference, or does a powerful state need to step in to protect you, to help you flourish? Where you land on that question, well, that puts you somewhere on this huge spectrum of political thought.
And see, that's really the essence of political theory. It's not some dusty academic exercise. It's what the political scientist Andrew Hacker called a passionate, ongoing debate. It's a whole history of brilliant thinkers, all trying to answer that one core question of power.
So let's start at the beginning of the modern argument. The first really powerful answer to emerge was, for its time, pretty radical. The individual always comes first.
This idea has a name. It's called negative liberty. I want you to picture a zone of freedom all around you, a bubble that the state just cannot cross. In this view, the government's only real job is to be a kind of night watchman, protecting your life and your property, but otherwise leaving you completely alone.
What's so fascinating is how two of the most important early thinkers got here from completely different places. So you have Thomas Hobbes, who imagined a state of nature without any government as just pure chaos, a war of all against all. His solution? A super powerful, absolute state to basically save us from ourselves. But then you have John Locke, who saw it totally differently. He believed the state of nature was mostly peaceful, governed by a natural law. For Locke, a state was only needed to be a neutral judge, to settle the occasional disagreement.
In this quote from Locke, man, it just perfectly captures a crucial point for these early liberals. Even though you agree to give up a little bit of your freedom to the state, the ultimate power always stays with the people. If the government breaks that trust, the people have the right to take that power right back. The state serves you, not the other way around.
Now, for a long time, this idea of a minimal state pretty much ruled the day. But then, as the Industrial Revolution created these huge new gaps between the rich and the poor, people started asking a really tough question. What good is being free from government interference if you're not actually free to live a decent life? This quote from T.H. Green marks a huge turning point in the whole argument. He basically came along and said, wait a minute, true liberty isn't just about being left alone. Real freedom actually requires rights. And to make sure those rights are guaranteed, well, for that, you need an active, powerful state. And this is the core idea of what we call positive liberty. The thinking here is that freedom isn't just the absence of chains, it's the actual ability to go out and pursue your goals. And if things like poverty or a lack of education or poor health are holding you back, this view says the state has a moral duty to step in and help clear those obstacles out of your way.
So now, you've got two competing ideas, both inside the same liberal tradition. On one side, you've got classical liberalism demanding freedom from the state. And on the other, you have positive liberalism arguing that true freedom is only possible through the state's help. This clash of ideas basically set the stage for all the epic political battles of the next century.
All right, let's jump forward to the 20th century, because this is where this abstract, philosophical debate gets real. It becomes a concrete, high-stakes fight over government policy all around the world.
Right after World War II, it really looked like positive liberty had won. Governments across the West built these massive welfare states, promising to take care of their citizens from cradle to grave. But then, by the 1970s, economic chaos hit, leading to what they called a fiscal crisis. The pendulum swung back, and it swung back hard. In the 80s, you get the rise of neoliberalism, pushed by thinkers like Friedrich Hayek, who called for a major return to free markets. And by the 90s, this idea had gone completely global.
This shift was so powerful that the British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher famously declared, "There is no alternative." That phrase became known as the Tina factor. It just perfectly captured the absolute confidence of the free market argument at the time. The feeling was, the debate's over and the minimal state is won. F.A. Hayek, who was a real intellectual giant of this movement, argued that the welfare state wasn't helping people. It was a threat to freedom. He believed that all this government intervention was just messing up the natural, beautiful order of the market and giving way too much power to bureaucrats.
But the conversation wasn't over, not by a long shot. In fact, in recent decades, new voices have entered the argument, and they're questioning the very foundations of this centuries-old debate.
See, these newer critiques challenge the entire framework.
Feminist thinkers are asking, can a state that was built inside a patriarchal system ever really be neutral? Post-colonial scholars are asking, whose state are we even talking about? Do these Western ideas even apply to the rest of the world? And then you have environmentalists who argue that both sides of the old debate were so focused on economic growth that they completely missed the looming ecological crisis.
So that brings us right back to today. We live in a world where power isn't just held by states, right? It's held by massive global tech companies. We're facing challenges like climate change that don't care about borders. So you have to ask, is this old argument of the individual versus the state still the right question? Or does this never-ending argument need a brand new chapter?